It's time to talk with Jay Foss.
Thanks so much for calling in. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. I appreciate you too, Jay Foss.
The magic happens when you have the right person in the right place at the right time.
If we're having fun, everyone else is going to have fun naturally.
Keep it local radio.
I'm obsessed with transformations on this show. And so I guess that in this case, you are that paradigm shift. You are the thing that transforms people. That's what people call me.
Want to connect with Jay? Dial in.
But then the question is everyone tuned into the right frequency?
Are you tuned in?
Making our corner of the world a little brighter.
Did you make the right decision here? Like, are you, did you bite off more than you can chew?
In figuring out what makes people tick whenever we start something new.
Yeah.
There's always that question of
raising your inner voice.
Wait, was this too much? Did I start hiking a mountain that's a little too high for my level of experience?
With Jay Foss.
It's a quote by Thoreau. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it.
Not just another talk show.
We cover all things that make us human.
It's time to be heard.
How can my values and how can these inner thoughts that I have help me be a more whole human being?
Online and on air.
We can't legislate being a good, decent human being. So what can we do? We can become more active in this community.
Raising your inner voice with Jay Foss.
Hey, party people. Thanks for tuning back in once again. This is Raising Your Inner Voice. And we have a special show lined up for this evening. Not special because we're talking and chatting with anyone in particular. Special because this is your chance to chime into the conversation here on Raising Your Inner Voice. Many ways to chime in. You can feel free to go ahead and just leave a comment. Post a comment on the clickety-clack-clack by typing on your keyboard, or this is a radio program, and with radio shows, for a more immediate back and forth conversation, you're welcome to call in. The phone number to call is 617-843-5393. I'll repeat it again because I would just love for more people to call in. 617-843-5393. That's the phone number to call. What are we talking about? What are we discussing on Raising Your Inner Voice this evening? It's synchronicities, signs, and such. What would a synchronicity be? Well, in case you haven't heard of this concept before, let me let you know that the concept of synchronicity was popularized by Dr. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. Jung introduced the idea in the 1920s. The 1920s. So this whole concept is roughly 100 years old. Way to stay up with the times, Jay. Way to stay up with the times. Yeah, this concept is 100 years old, but I think it still speaks volumes to your life and mine if we're paying attention. Because if we're not paying attention, we're not going to even see these synchronicities. So again, it was developed further by Jung in the 1950s, particularly in his 1952 essay, Synchronicity, in a causal connecting principle. So we still haven't uncovered what it is yet. Jung described synchronicity as the meaningful coincidence of events that appear to be unrelated but hold personal significance. So things that seemingly are unrelated but hold personal significance to you. So something that's meaningful to you that you're paying attention to in your own life, that you're aware of that is happening, but is unrelated in almost any other thing, with the exception of being you. You are the glue that's holding the meaning together. You are the whole. I mean, this is what we delve into on this show on Sunday evenings, right? Like, what makes you tick? It's your life that you're living. It's my life that I'm living. So how can we figure out this life and live it better, more full, a more whole existence? I think it's something that we can figure out and learn from each other together. And that's why I would love to have you participate in this conversation. Let me go on for a second more, and then feel free to either type on the keyboard, call in to 617-843-5393, because I'm just really curious what you make of these synchronicities, of these signs in your life that seemingly they have no common connector aside from you yourself and the meaning that you give to it. Jung proposed that these events are connected not by causality, right? So it's not something that's causing them, but by meaning reflecting an underlying order in the universe. I mean, that is an expansive thought. The whole universe is putting these nuggets together in your life, these little breadcrumbs on the path of your life, and you're the one who can make meaning of it. You are the one figuring out what the purpose is in your life, what makes you tick. Jung's idea on synchronicity were influenced by his collaboration with physicist Wolfgang Pauli, as well as concepts from Eastern philosophy, alchemy, which I'm no alchemist myself. That's transforming matter, right? Is alchemy, and the collective unconscious. So that's all of us together. This relates with that whole concept that I keep on rambling on about how we're interrelated, we're interconnected. We are alive together at this same time. I was going to say in the same place, but we don't have to be in the same physical place because of the internet. We are in this same space together. Even if you're checking this out on the podcast afterwards, you're still in the head space that I'm in right now. And I'm really appreciative of you being here in this headspace. So yeah, what do you think? It's time to open up the gates and let you comment in. Feel free to comment on the YouTube video. Feel free to give me a call, 617-843 5393 is the phone number to call. But yeah, what do you think about maybe you think that Carl Jung is a little out there and he's making a bigger deal out of coincidences than needs to be made. Maybe I'm going down that path with him and you're like, Jay, this is pointless. What? Good things happen in life. Not a big deal. The reason I wanted to cover this topic this evening is because I feel like within the past couple of shows, I've had comments about synchronicities happen in life. The first one, this past episode, was all about pet loss. And at the end of it, Nikki Vitale, who was my guest last week, she was discussing pet loss. But at the end of the episode, if you made it through the end of the episode, she mentioned that she was one of the main producers for Dr. Wayne Dyer. And I don't know if you're familiar with Wayne Dyer. He's a motivational speaker, a spiritualist, and really an insightful man. And he was a big believer in synchronicities. Someone else commented on the show to me that it's funny that I was releasing the pet loss video when I did, because he had to unfortunately put his dog down this past week. And so that's a synchronicity, right? It's something that's seemingly unrelated, but has personal relevance. It matters personally. That's so interesting to me, because it goes back to this concept of us being more aware of what's happening in our lives. In order to figure out what these synchronicities mean, we need to be paying attention, right? And if we're paying attention to the various aspects of our lives, then we are aware. And if we're aware, then we can start to make meaning out of the various synchronicities that happen. And I'm fine with the word coincidence, even if you want to call it a coincidence. Yeah, because they are coincidences, right? But I don't think coincidence has the significance to the meaning for you personally, or to me personally. Another example of this was when a couple of episodes ago, when we were talking all about basically your spirit animal, the animal of the wild animal that your soul is. We went down this whole rabbit hole. Kimmy had chimed in saying that she had it's funny that we were talking about that evening, because she had just come from a soul animal class, if you will. So another synchronicity there, right? There's seemingly unrelated things that have meaning and reflect values for people. It's an important thing for people that seemingly are unrelated. Going back to Jung's definition, it's the meaningful coincidence of events that appear to be unrelated but hold personal significance. He proposed that these events are not connected by causality. What's causality? It's A plus B equals C, right? So causality is when something happens, it triggers something else. So it's not just me going for a dog walk and being like, oh, hey, look at that. I'm walking my dog and now I notice that it's a nice day outside. It's like, because of course, if I'm taking my dog on a walk, I'm going to go outside, right? So A plus B equals C. So I can notice that it's a nice day, but that doesn't have particular significance for me. But that's an example of causation or causality. But it's the meaning reflecting an underlying order in the universe. And this goes back to how it is that you make sense of your life. What makes you tick? What's special about you? What are things that make you come alive? Such good questions that I think it's worth delving into and figuring out and answering if you can. I don't know. Maybe I'm a nut. That's certainly, I haven't ruled that out of the equation. My close friends know that I'm a bit zany myself. So maybe I'm just out there. Maybe I'm out in the universe by myself. Sometimes it feels that way, you know what I mean? But this is Raising Your Inner Voice. And I'm Jay Foss. This evening, we're talking all about synchronicities, signs and such, right? I mean, signs, I think, is another example of how people can believe that the universe is showing you signs. And how do we interpret those? Because there have been people who have pointed out signs in the universe. And just because a sign is showing up doesn't mean that it's informing you one way or another. But we all interpret signs differently. So what is it that makes you lean a certain way to a sign or to a synchronicity? I mean, it's an interesting thought puzzle to go down, right? What is it that makes you come alive? What is it that makes you feel like a whole person, fully alive in your body, in your mind, in your emotions, in your spirit? Even if your spirit is a wild animal, what is it that makes you come alive? What are the things in your life that make you realize, yeah, this life is worth living? Music is a great example. I'm continually going back to music on this because most people just gravitate towards good music, right? We all love good music. There's not a person alive that doesn't love good music, but how we define good music, what the personal relevance is different for each of us. And I think that's applicable to the synchronicity example. We're talking about synchronicities and signs. And synchronicity, as defined by Dr. Carl Jung, I can't believe. So he introduced the idea in the 1920s, and it was further developed in the 1950s by him. He's a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. Jung describes synchronicity as the meaningful coincidence of events that appear to be unrelated but hold personal significance. So how is it that you interpret these things? How do you, what are some synchronicities that appear and show up in your life? I gave a couple of examples. They're minor ones, right? Of things having to do with the show. But I think that we all pay attention to different synchronicities in our lives, and we're able to, I mean, that's how we make sense of life, right? That goes back to, I've had lots of guests tell me that life is made up of the stories that we tell ourselves. And the stories that we tell ourselves are there because we're paying attention and we're telling ourselves a story about something. And the synchronicities inform those stories. The signs of life inform the stories that we're telling ourselves. So in order to make it a better story, we have to pay attention and piece together the various puzzle pieces, whether they're related or not. But I think that it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes when we can actually go ahead and say, oh, this is happening in my life, and this completely unrelated thing is also happening in my life. And I feel like that's pointing me to do this or to feel this way. It doesn't even have to be doing something, right? I know a lot of people that when they see a beloved animal in the wild, a certain bird or something like that, they think it's a sign and a message from people who have passed on before. Do you think that? I mean, what is it too much to think that this world is more complicated in a lot? It's one of those paradoxes, because I was going to say it's a lot more complicated than what we think. But at the same time, it almost seems like a simple answer to say, oh yeah, well, the universe is telling me this, right? It's something bigger outside of myself that's pointing me in a direction and giving me signs and life in a certain direction. Would love to get your thoughts. Would love to get your perspective on this. The phone number to call, if you want to call in, 617-843-5393. That's the phone number to dial. Or if you don't feel comfortable calling into the radio show, you can always type on the keyboard and comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know how far in left field this Jay Foss character is. And I'm not offended by it. I have a strange view that when we listen to each other and can actually learn from each other, that is what makes us better people. That is what makes us more full, whole human beings. So it's nothing that we need to argue about. This isn't a political conversation. This is simply a conversation of, hey, I learned this and I have this other perspective to add and to share. And it's probably a perspective that I didn't foresee. I couldn't see, right? I mean, that's the whole point of blind spots. If it's in your blind spot, you can't see it. So other people can point out things that are in your blind spot having to do with your life that otherwise you can't see. And thank goodness that they can point it out. So it's nothing we need to get argumentative about or defensive about. We don't need to take it too personally, which is an issue of mine. Many times I take things too personally, but I'm working on it, and it's not over yet, right? The story is still continuing. Yeah. Would love to have you in the story, in this conversation, right here on Raising Your Inner Voice. We are going to take a short break, but we will be back on the other side of this commercial break discussing synchronicities.
Stay with us as we continue Raising Your Inner Voice with Jay Foss.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber. If you're replacing the windows in your home, please see the Anderson 400 series windows on display at any of our 3 locations in North Reading, Beverly, or Plastown, New Hampshire. The Anderson 400 is attractive, durable, energy efficient, and reasonably priced. Remember, Anderson is the most trusted name in windows. See the Anderson 400 at any of our 3 locations. That's North Reading, Beverly, or Plastown, New Hampshire, or at MoynihanLumber.com.
Moynihan Lumber, we measure up.
If you have any issues, topics, or voices that you think would be great to be heard on this show, please reach out, jay.foss@me.com. If you want to add your voice to the conversation, record a voice memo and email it to me, or tune in live Sunday evenings at 7 p.m.
How's your 401k? I'm Luke Noble of Noble Financial Group. As a certified financial planner, I know you can't plan for everything, but we can prepare you for life's twists and turns. We'll make a plan to help your money last through your retirement years. Our team is dedicated to helping you achieve your financial goals. Let us help. Visit NobleFinancialGroupLLC.com.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through MML Investor Services. Member SIPC. Noble Financial Group is not an affiliate or subsidiary of MML Investor Services.
Making our corner of the world a little brighter, online and on air. Raising your inner voice with Jay Foss.
And we're back on Raising Your Inner Voice. This evening, we are discussing synchronicities, signs, and such things of that nature. Would love to have you join the conversation. The phone number to call is 617-843-5393. And don't feel shy. You can always type on the keyboard to comment. If you want to even just go ahead and leave me a voice message, you can leave a voice message to the phone number I just gave, or you can text one to me. You can email it to me, do whatever you wish. The phone number to text it to is 617-843-5393. The email address to send it to is jay.foss@me.com. And what are we discussing this evening? We are discussing the concept of synchronicity. The concept was popularized by Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. Jung introduced the idea in the 1920s and further developed it in the 50s. Can you believe that an idea like this could be around for 100 years? And I'm curious if you think that if this is something that resonates with you, having synchronicities in your life, what is the meaning of the synchronicities that you find? What are the things that you're paying attention to that make sense in your life? And what's the meaning that you take from it? Why do you interpret it the way that you do? That to me is more interesting than actually what the synchronicity is. It's how you interpret it. It's the meaning that you give it. It's the value that you place upon it, right? Because we all have different things that we place value upon. But when it comes to synchronicities and signs, what gives it the power in your life that you attribute to it? That's where the gold is, I think. That's where the meaning, and then how do you bring that and make that available to others? Do you discuss synchronicities? Is this something that you don't talk about? Or do you have people that you share your synchronicities with? Oh, so good. I would love to get your voice in this conversation. 617-843-5393. I keep mentioning the phone number because this is a radio program. There is a video element, though, especially on the podcast. It's the audio that matters, right? It's the audio that takes center stage and is applicable to all listeners who are tuning in and letting me know. Or on an evening like this, it's your chance to. Why might you want to tune in? Why might you want to add to the conversation? It's not just to shut me up, though that could be one reason as well. I'm having a bit of fun here. It's also another incentive is I happen to have some goodies that I send out to people that join in the conversation or shoot me a voice message or give me a call or comment online. But yeah, you will get a goodie for participating here on Raising Your Inner Voice. Why do I do that? Because I think that it's my way of saying thanks for adding to the conversation. And the conversation this evening is all on synchronicity and signs in your life. I know there's different people that tune in at various points in the course of the hour. So I'm repeating some of myself to make sure that anyone who's just tuning in knows that we're discussing the concept of synchronicity, which was introduced and popularized by Carl Jung. Jung describes synchronicity as the meaningful coincidence of events that appear to be unrelated but hold personal significance. He proposed that these events are connected not by causality, but by meaning, reflecting an underlying order in the universe. A lot of people interpret order in the universe as God, right? A lot of people take religious connotations when it comes to things that are ordering in the universe. Is that how you interpret it? Is that the best way of interpreting it? I know I have various friends who check out the show, some of which are very religious, some of which are very agnostic, and some of which couldn't care either way. I'm not sure if I have a lot of atheist friends who check out the show, though I would really be intrigued with what you would attribute the order in the universe to if you're not attributing it to a higher being. That's a perspective that I find really interesting. And even there, I mean, I don't think that you need to be a religious person to experience this conversation, right? About synchronicities, about there being a higher order in the universe. Maybe you can say that it's more humanly causes. And maybe you actually don't buy into the whole synchronicity issue. Maybe you think that it's a non-issue, that in fact there are causes that we may not see. I mean, that's the whole order of the universe. Hello, Jay. We're talking in circles here on Raising Your Inner Voice. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're discussing synchronicities, signs, and such on the show this evening. Why did I want to talk about this? Well, on a couple of recent episodes, we've had some people mention synchronicities, from the topics we've discussed to the timing of the topics we discussed and the timing of personal relevance in their lives. So I thought that it would be a good time to bring up this concept that's 100 years old and talk about it. Would love to get your feedback on that. I don't know. What do you think? Synchronicities and signs. What are these occurrences that happen in life? Are you paying attention to them? Because I definitely notice some things in my life where it seems like they're unrelated. But yet, what's a good example? Well, I'll bring it back to the show, right? Last week we did a pet loss show, and a friend sent me a message saying that he had to put down his dog that week. So it was a synchronicity of sorts that here was this random show that he checks out. And at the same time, he had to go through this emotional event with putting his dog down. So what's the meaning in that? I think a lot of times the meaning that I get from it, at least, is to pay attention more, to pay attention better to this life that we're leading to this life that we're living. And if we're paying attention more, if we're paying attention better in the way that we can to our own existence, I mean, that's the concept behind raising your inner voice, right? It's not just a chance to pay attention to myself, to focus on myself. It's not self-centered in that regard. It has a bigger meaning that influences those loved ones around me, even those hated ones around me. But paying attention to my own existence in a non-selfish way brings better meaning and a fuller sense of meaning to life. And I think that that is really, really interesting. All right, here we go. Kimmy D is chiming in. She says, I feel like up until recently, I don't know that I've paid enough attention to signs or synchronicity. Had I been raised to view life in this way, I feel as though I would have been able to pay attention. Yeah, I can relate to that. In talking, I wonder if this is, I mean, right. So this whole concept, it's 100 years old. I don't know that unless you are an expert in your field of psychology, I don't know if you would really be exposed to this. And now there's more people who have better modalities, right? Who are able to show and share things that otherwise people were not openly discussing or expressing. Also chiming in, been able to pay attention in a way to help make a difference in my life. Yeah, I can relate to that. Absolutely. So how can we, I mean, do you have any examples of synchronicities that you have noticed recently then? Because even with noticing recent examples, I mean, if you're becoming more aware, I almost want to say more conscious. I don't know if that's the right word though. If you're becoming more aware and more conscious of the signs in your life, of the way that things are going, what are you making sense of it from that? From noticing it? Is it encouraging? Is it depressing? Is it something that makes your life better? Because even that, I mean, the whole aspect of a better life, I think, is a more full life. It's right. We are all human beings. We're not human doings. And if we can live better lives, what do I mean by a better life? It means a fuller life. So like with my mind engaged, with me paying attention to all of the signs in my life and really expressing that through my emotions in the physical body that I have. Yeah, wholeness is ultimately, I think, my goal with that. Not sure if that relates or not. But with wholeness being my goal, I think that having synchronicities in my life, because that's the cool thing about the synchronicity, right? Is that they're seemingly unrelated. Coincidental events that appear to be unrelated but hold personal significance. Jung proposed that these events are connected not by causality, but by meaning, reflecting an underlying order in the universe. Order in the universe. I mean, it's personal relevance is what we're getting at. And there's no way, it's funny because personal relevance almost seems like the opposite of order in the universe, right? I mean, because the universe is so vast and big that I would almost think that I would be insignificant in the order of the universe, right? I'm just a little ant taking a nap here and there. I'm just a little ant working on my own ant hole. But there is significance and meaning in that, at least for me, just as there is for you. So paying attention to the signs can both be personal and universal. So those seemingly seem like they're in contrast with each other, but I think that there's actually a lot going on there. It's kind of like that phrase "one in a million," right? If you call someone one in a million, that's both a beautiful compliment and a backhanded insult, because hey, you're one in a million. You're a diamond. You're a star. You're one in a million. But the opposite of that is also true. You're one in a million. You don't really matter. You're just one person in a million people. I don't know where that analogy came from, but it works, right? Just in the way that synchronicities are both personal and universal in that same sense. I've noticed I've been talking with people a lot lately about how I love to find paradoxes. And that would actually be a synchronicity for me. I love when paradoxes show up out of nowhere, because I can find personal relevance with those. And the meaning to me is a very personal one because of some paradoxical things of when I was a kid that didn't make sense at the time, but I've added meaning to them over time, right? And so that's why it's personally relevant. That's where the meaning comes from, is because of these synchronicities and paying attention and being aware and being conscious of what's going on. Another aspect of this that I'm happy to dive into is the collective unconscious. So the collective unconscious could describe the way in which we as a people respond to things and move. One example could be when looking at politics, right? That could explain. You know what? Let's go to the music example, because I love music so much. Songs that are popular, right, are geared that way. You could say on one hand that you are very skeptical of the music business, and that songs that are popular are created popular because of the machine that is the music machine, and they're pushing it down everyone's throats. That's one way of looking at music. But I think that music is relevant based upon this collective unconscious. It's based upon values that we people have collectively, and it's unconscious because there's songs that we just gravitate towards, and that's how those people end up becoming popular. And the popularity that they gain isn't necessarily forged or forced, but rather it's a result from this collective unconscious. Yeah, thoughts on that? I also think that that's where some synchronicities can add to the meaning making side of things, is because collectively we aren't actively choosing songs that we like, right? We aren't actively choosing, oh, this song is going to really resonate with a lot of other people. That's not how the music making process works. Usually the music making process, I mean, especially when you throw in something like Dua Lipa became very famous after the pandemic, or because of the pandemic, if you want to call it causation, because we were dealing with such heavy issues in life, right? That she felt this need to make positive, upbeat kind of sugary pop songs. And that is what gained her momentum to become so popular. But I don't think that it was intentional in the sense that she's like, oh, I'm going to go out and resonate with a lot of other people. No, I think it's the opposite. Music, many times, creators create something that is meaningful to them. And that is something that resonates with other people. And I mean, that's why I love having creative individuals on the program, is because I think that they have an interesting way of looking at life, and they are more in tuned with this collective unconscious, but it's unconscious, right? So they don't even know that they're doing it. They just know that, oh, I'm experiencing this in my life. And that's when it becomes a synchronicity, because, oh, I was just thinking about this concept and the song came on, or I was just thinking about this person and this song came on that this person always used to love. And it's like it came up out of the blue, out of nowhere. Or that person calls you, right? So, I mean, those are another examples of synchronicities, is seemingly unrelated occurrences where there is a bigger order that you're bumping into. Yeah, I don't know. Those are just some thoughts regarding synchronicities and signs. I don't know. I could be, you know how I feel about myself. I could be way off on all this. I would love some pushback. I would love better examples, because I don't think I'm doing a good job with providing examples of synchronicities, with the exception perhaps of some synchronicities that have occurred on the program lately. Wayne Dyer, who, if you've checked out the podcast for a while now, if you're a longtime listener, I've actually used some of his quotes before in the show open. And I think he had a lot of insight when it came to synchronicities. I mentioned him because Nikki Vittel, who was my guest last week, talking about pet loss, she's dealing with, go back and check out the episode. You can figure out what she's dealing with. But she was a former producer for Dr. Wayne Dyer. So that in and of itself could be a synchronicity for you. Maybe Wayne Dyer is showing up a ton in your life. Maybe you have other things showing up in your life. I don't know. What are some other synchronicities that are appearing for you? What are other synchronicities or signs, right? It doesn't even have to be just synchronicities. It doesn't have to be solely that. It could be signs that, well, again, signs are interesting to me because of how they're interpreted. Especially if you're trying to make a big decision about something and you're noticing signs, are the signs pointing you to or away from your decision? Because just because you're noticing something, so if you're taking, let's use a job for an example. If you're thinking about quitting a job and you keep on bumping into things that are talking about quitting a job or talking about new happenings in life, do you interpret that as something, therefore, then you should do? Or do you interpret that as something of like a warning? I don't want to do it. I'm going to stay away from that. Because you can interpret it either way. But the way that you make meaning ties into that story that you're telling yourself. And if we're all telling ourselves different stories in our own little worlds, I mean, I guess that explains why we have such vast stories that seems like people don't even relate with each other in the world, because everyone's so not obsessed, but everyone's so caught up with their own stories. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. We're going to go ahead and say that makes sense. If you're just tuning in, this is Raising Your Inner Voice, and we are discussing synchronicities and signs on the show this evening. Where did this concept come from? Well, the concept of synchronicity was popularized by Dr. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst. Jung introduced the idea in the 1920s and further developed it in the 1950s, particularly in his 1952 essay, Synchronicity, an acasual connecting principle. Jung described synchronicity as the meaningful coincidence of events that appear to be unrelated, but, here's the big but hold personal significance. He proposed that these events are connected to not by causality, but by meaning, reflecting an underlying order in the universe. Jung's ideas on synchronicity were influenced by his collaboration with physicist Wolfgang Pauli. I don't know Wolfgang Pauli from any other Wolfgang. As well as concepts. He was influenced by concepts from Eastern philosophy, alchemy, and the collective unconscious. So that's why we're discussing synchronicities here on Raising Your Inner Voice. We'd love to get your thoughts. Yeah, it is. Kimmy's chiming in that this is such a broad and varied concept from person to person and through what speaks to them at a certain time. Yeah, it is. I'm a big picture person. For better or for worse, I am a big picture person, and I'm trying to stay focused on it. But there's a lot of elements that go with synchronicities. And signs and how we can interpret those. And it's so particular. I think you're right on that. It varies from person to person. That's why I'm curious what other examples you can come up with, because I know that mine are lacking. And I think that other people can fill in the void there. But what we're going to do right now is go ahead and take a short break here on Raising Your Inner Voice. And we will be back with more on synchronicities, signs, and such right here on this Sunday evening, where we delve into such varied and deep and broad topics.
Want to connect with Jay? Dial in as we continue Raising Your Inner Voice.
Are you worried about the stock market, your 401k, or rising costs? Hi, I'm Luke Noble of Noble Financial Group. As a certified financial planner, I know you can't plan for everything, but our dedicated team of professionals can better prepare you so your money lasts as long as you do. Let us help. Visit noblefinancialgroup.llc.com.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through MML Investor Services. Member SIPC. Noble Financial Group is not an affiliate or subsidiary of MML Investor Services.
Hi, I'm Paul from Gentilly Brewing, and we've been open for 9 years this March. Celebrate with fresh cans of Allen's Rye Pale Ale, South African Pilsner, Imperial Porter, Divergent IPA, and our own Irish Red. Come on down to 59 Park Street in Beverly to grab some to go. Want to try before you buy? Sample them all in our custom flight board. Our tap room is more than just beer. We have many events planned, including live music, food pop-ups, yoga, and even a book signing. For details, visit gentillybrewing.com. That's GENTILE brewing.com.
What does living a better life mean? And what's your process in figuring that out? If you want to join in the conversation live, tune in Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you want to gather your thoughts first, record a voice memo and email it to jay.foss@me.com, because I would love to have your voice in this conversation. If you think someone else might need a conversation like this one, then let them know to get involved.
Hi, folks. This is Gerard Moynihan of Moynihan Lumber. Professional builders choose Andersen Windows because they are the #1 trusted and recommended window and door brand in the United States. Andersen Windows and patio doors offer beautiful natural wood interiors, low maintenance exteriors, and outstanding energy efficiency. See the complete line of Andersen Windows on display at Moynihan Lumber in Beverly, North Reading, and Plastown, New Hampshire, or visit us at MoynihanLumber.com.
Moynihan Lumber, we measure up.
Not just another talk show. It's time to be heard. Online and on air. Raising Your Inner Voice with Jay Foss.
And on Raising Your Inner Voice this evening, we're talking all about Carl Jung's concept of synchronicities. Some people might call them signs. Some people might interpret them as what the universe is telling them about your life. Something that actually, I'm going to go ahead and delve back into this example for you, just as we're wrapping up the show, because I think it's a good one. I expressed that my wild animal of my soul is probably a deer, because I see lots of deers. And the other night, I had to take my dog out late at night, and she was jumping around, kind of prancing and galloping like a deer. And I thought it was hilarious. And then she paused and stood, and in the shadow, her ears looked like antlers coming out of a deer's head. So I thought that this is really encouraging to me. Here I was judging, right? I was judging my wild animal of the deer being reflection of my soul, but I needn't not do that, because it was something that was reassuring to me of like, yeah, that is my soul animal. And that's okay. I don't need to judge it, right? It goes back to this concept of not judging, not discussing, not arguing with each other, not even arguing with myself. It's okay to not argue with yourself, and just accept that things are the way they are and be comforted by that. Now, I could have interpreted that another way, right? I could have interpreted that and said, why does that have to be, right, my soul animal? That's not the soul animal I want. I want a lion. Or whatever the example is. But that's how I interpreted it, as something that was comforting to me. So I think that that's why the stories that we tell ourselves are so intriguing and interesting, because we can tell ourselves vastly different stories, how we're feeling about things, based upon the way in which we are paying attention to our lives. And that is something that's really interesting to me, right? Of why is it that we're connecting dots? That's another way we can look at it. If we are connecting dots in building the picture of our lives, right? Why is it that we're connecting the dots that we're connecting and not connecting different dots with each other? Especially when it comes to coincidental things. Why is it that we are connecting the dots that we're connecting and not doing it in a different way? And therefore, if we were doing it in a different way, we would be drawing a completely different picture based upon the dots that are there, the factual dots of life, which are the occurrences and events. But yet we interpret them in a certain way. And the way in which we interpret them is the picture that we're drawing. Oh, that's a good analogy, isn't it? And maybe the picture that we're drawing is our soul animal, right? It's our wild animal of our soul. And that's what, when we're all done and gone, that's what we leave behind. And that's really what gets at the whole what makes you tick question. What makes you come alive? What gives you purpose, meaning, fulfillment in life? All these questions and plenty more are what we discuss here on Raising Your Inner Voice. I wanted to give you a quick sneak peek of some episodes that we do have coming up. One episode I'm going to be discussing with a local restaurant owner down in Cambridge, all about what it's like to be a female owner of a restaurant, and, you know, challenges that come up. Perhaps this is going to be shocking to most ladies I know, of course, but perhaps ways in which she has faced challenges, particularly being a female business owner. I do have another guest coming up. He is a chancellor of a small business school. It's a school that I've attended classes at in the past. And the name of it is called Wizard Academy. It's really interesting place. It's kind of like Disneyland, but for adults instead of for kids. So I'll just leave you with that thought. I'm going to be speaking with him. And also, I happen to know a gentleman who owns a boxing club, and he's all about motivating kids and giving kids confidence and letting them grow and mature, not only in their boxing skills. I was very tempted to try to get him on, or I wasn't tempted. I was trying to get him on for the Valentine's Day show, or the closest episode to Valentine's Day, because I thought that would be a hilarious example of ways that we can deal with our spouses is through boxing together. But it didn't happen. So we're gonna have him on this month. Lots of good shows coming up that I'm really excited about, and I think that you will gain a lot from. I'm hoping you do. I hope you get something from this show. I know that I personally do. This is a personal pet project of mine with raising your inner voice. And the way that I raise my inner voice is by posing different questions to myself and seeing which questions may resonate with others, which questions are ones that we should be asking, which questions are ones that we should just throw away and not think about. So that's some of my thought process, and would love to, or I do appreciate you being here, tuned into the conversation, and making sure that you are living the best life that you can lead in the corner of the world that you inhabit. Because we all inhabit different corners of the world, and together that makes up the world. The universe is made up of our smaller worlds and our smaller corners of it. So I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you tuned in to the conversation. And I appreciate, for those who do comment, for those who do call in, for those who leave me a voice message, thank you so much. I'm truly honored and grateful for your participation. It breaks up my thoughts. It breaks up my voice as well. So it's a good thing. Please be kind and gentle with yourself, regardless of the synchronicities that are happening in your life and the various signs that you have proving to be showing themselves to you. I want you to go ahead and please be kind and gentle with yourself and share that same grace with others.
If you're enjoying this podcast, please help spread the word about raising your inner voice. Join the conversation live. Email jay.foss@me.com to suggest ideas to explore. Also, share this podcast with your friends. Let those who need conversations like this have a chance to check it out.
Then let them know to get involved.